Transformation of the sparrow and the butterfly. The sparrow once said to the butterfly, "When I look at you, I can see that in your previous form you were once a caterpillar. Long ago you tumbled along in the vegetable gardens and were unable to move around freely. But finally you attached yourself to a leaf and wriggled away accordingly. Now you've transformed into a butterfly. You visit the flowers, chase after their fragrances, and have a body that can fly around at will. How pleasant this must be compared with long ago. Now, even though you can say I'm a tiny bird, I do have wings, I have feet, and I can walk and fly as my heart desires. Nevertheless, I've heard a story that in September I'll enter the ocean and become a clam. When I look at clams, I see that they have no eyes or noses, nor do they have hands or feet. They hide in shells and from time to time stick out their tongues, but have no idea what they're eating. They tumble along in the water even when it's terribly cold and just bury themselves in the sand. What will I do if I turn into such a thing? It would be much better if I had been born a clam, although I would still think it shameful, but having once been born a sparrow with a body that freely enjoyed the mountains and forests, and then changing into a clam and bearing the hardships and bitterness of being in the water, following the ebb and flow of the tides, growing thin and growing fat, how annoying it would be to yearn for former times. When I anticipate this happening in the future, I can only mourn and be sad. What good karma you must possess to have advanced from a caterpillar and now to have a body that is so free. And what bad karma I must have to fall from a flying bird and to become such a different sort of thing." As the sparrow shed tears, the butterfly said, "This is not something to bemoan. It's not that you're making a decline, and neither have I advanced. As for concentrating my essence, becoming one thing and then metamorphosing into another, how could I have a mind to do such a thing? Although I changed from a caterpillar into a butterfly, at the time I had no thoughts about how to make that change. Not only that, but I've completely forgotten about the time I was a caterpillar. Now, when I think about it, I'm sure that I must have lived a life appropriate to a caterpillar. Long ago, Chuang Tzu fluttered about as a butterfly in a dream. In the dream, he had taken on the mind of a butterfly and had no idea that he was a man. But waking from the dream, he was once again Chuang Tzu. In fact, he said, did Chuang Tzu become a butterfly in a dream, or has a butterfly now become Chuang Tzu in its dream? The principle of metamorphosis is just like this. When you make a transformation in September and become a clam, you will naturally move with the chi of heaven and not even be aware that you are entering the sea. At that moment, what kind of mind will you have? When you think about it, it will probably be like getting drunk and falling asleep. After you've become a clam, the sparrow's mind you have now will be completely gone, and you'll naturally have the mind of a clam. You'll make your home in the water even when it's terribly cold, but you won't be cold at all. You'll tumble along with the tides, but will live your life appropriately. It is the consistency of principle that when form changes, the mind and chi change with it. Principle has no form, but exists within chi. Right now, you have the form of a sparrow, and having a sparrow's chi, the principle of a sparrow takes on existence. Likewise, when you have the form and chi of a clam, the principle of a clam will take on existence. The mind of the form follows that form. When the form is extinguished, the mind of that form disappears too. Long ago, there was an old man. When he was approaching death, a priest from his family temple came by and suggested that he chant the Nembutsu. The old man opened his eyes wide and said, "The 10,000 things are born from emptiness and return to emptiness. How can there be a transmigration of souls?" The priest said, "What can you do when faced with the worst? Just toss principles aside and chant the Nembutsu." The old man shook his head and said, Even if there were such a thing as rebirth, it wouldn't be so bad. Honored priest, do you remember the time you were in your mother's womb? What did you feel when you were being born? Tell me. The priest became angry and said, is there even one person who could remember this? Do you remember? The old man said, I don't remember either, nor is there anyone who remembers anything close to the time they were born, much less should there be anyone who remembers a distant former birth. So even if I am reborn into something after this, my present mind will be completely extinguished. Even if I become an ant or a mouse, I'll have the mind of whatever I'm born as and should live appropriately. Transformation of the sparrow and the butterfly. The sparrow once said to the butterfly, when I look at you, I can see that in your previous form you were once a caterpillar. Long ago you tumbled along in the vegetable garden